There's a lot of hook writing advice out there, and quite honestly, I used to suck at them. I couldn't understand what made them so addictive or punchy or even good. So in this video, I'm going to break down the architecture of a good hook. First, we're going to go through the psychology behind them. Second, actually writing them. And then third, the delivery. See, there's way too many hooks out there, but they all have the same things in common. They're all leading with something like a problem, a solution, curiosity, a bold opinion, a transformation, a statement, or something of credibility. Now, to explain this, I need to refer to the famous wheel of emotion. You needed to understand the reason why people and even yourself are reacting in certain way to certain hooks, so you can use them to your advantage. See, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. And if we can't get them to love, at least we must tap into the other emotions. Facts tell, stories sell. Now, to understand all of this, rule one is to understand the emotion you want to evoke in your reader. Is it anger? Is it fear? Is it joy? Is it excitement? Being 100% aware of this subconsciously makes you write differently. My goal, for example, is that every single one of my readers feels self-achieved, happy, or even inspired after reading my content. 95% of the time, I avoid conflict or polarizing opinions. Okay, maybe 70%, and negatives. But this is purely dependent on your style. Like if you're a coach, bold opinions and perhaps some negatives debunking other people is what you should be doing. But that's fully dependent on what you're doing. But if you're just starting out, then leading with excitement and authority is probably the best way forward. Now, hook writing. There's a lot of ifs and buts with hooks, but I have 5 non-negotiables. Number 1 is that the hook needs to be a one-liner, then it must lead with relevant keywords, then it should always have numbers whenever possible. 4th is that the hook must always be direct. I never want people to guess what I'm talking about. 5th is that there should always be a clear outcome so the reader gets it. And for me personally, there's 3 things I do religiously according to data. I keep my hooks from 8 to 10 words long. I use how I, and my in my hooks. Then I tend to use numbers in 70% of all of my posts. And always, and I mean always, have a specific outcome in mind. Now, let me break it down. So now, if we go to my LinkedIn profile, we can literally see this step-by-step mirrored perfectly because obviously I wrote it, so I must follow my own framework. So we've got the 5 non-negotiables. So the hook needs to be a one-liner, which we have here. Then it must lead with a relevant keyword. For this one, I used ChatGPT and Hacked and also Writes Like Me. There's 3 relevant keywords there. Everybody likes the word hack because it makes it seem simple. Then ChatGPT, well, everybody wants a ChatGPT hack. And then Writes Like Me. So the Writes Like Me is quite personal because I am known for my writing. So then I've simplified this like, oh, I use this thing that now can write like me, have it. Now, I always add numbers whenever possible. This one doesn't have any numbers until the 4th line, but I didn't really need to add any numbers, so that's fine. And then the hook must be direct, don't make people guess. So I hacked ChatGPT and now it writes like me. Here's exactly how it does it and faster. So I didn't leave people guessing. I wasn't like, oh, last year I was looking at ChatGPT and I found something crazy. Like I didn't do anything of that. I literally went boom, boom, boom. Like problem, agitate, solution. So I found a ChatGPT hack that makes you write like me. Here's how. I didn't fumble the bag. I literally went straight for the money. And then there was like a clear outcome. So like the clear outcome was using ChatGPT to write like me. And then I delivered an entire hook and an entire video on top of that. So I think I got full marks for that one. Let's look at the next one, for example. So this one as well is a one-liner. It then has relevant keywords. So work-life balance, entrepreneurship. So those are, topics that I juggle with my personal brand. And then the next thing is numbers. I didn't need to use numbers for that one. The hook must be direct. Don't make people guess. Very direct. Incredibly direct. I was actually quite scared of posting this because it's a very bold opinion in the world of LinkedIn. And there must be a clear outcome so the reader reads it. So the clear outcome here was like obviously explaining work-life balance based on this image. And then what I do to embrace it. And I actually gave like a little bit of like what I do every single day to try and live a balanced life, which I do not live. It's literally currently 2 a.m. in the morning and I'm filming this. So yes, no. Similar to this exact same thing, we can see a short hook, numbers used, straight into the delivery. Here's how to fix it. Relevant keywords. So proposal, here's how to do it, 99%. So very relevant keywords there. Very direct hook, and then a promised framework, which I then delivered. So if you are looking for really good hooks, then just look at my profile. But I am definitely not biased. Now, we've understood the idea of writing a good hook, but actually then executing is a problem because you don't even know what to start. So here's the exact 6-step framework I use to write simple and quick hooks every single time. First thing you need to do is brainstorm your post topic. Then you need to identify the key lesson. Then you use curiosity, or you choose your ideal outcomes from that story or lesson that you're using. Then in the hook, you need to be specific and use numbers for detail. So take everything that you brainstormed and then pick and choose specific key points in that story or educational piece of content that you want to highlight. Then you need to keep the hook between 7 to 10 words long so it fits on your mobile and it reads well. And then always, and I mean always again, deliver on the hooks. Promise, okay? Now, let's say I want to use that framework to write a post, about hooks. And I've got this amazing 6-step framework that I literally just taught you to share with my audience. So that's my brainstorming on what I'm going to share done. Now, the key lesson for me is going viral because that's why I like to go viral, to reach more people, etc. So, but now, how can I make others curious about it? Well, I can open loops and address a common issue my followers have, writing a good hook. I then think about whether I have stats or numbers to use, and then the entire process goes something like this. So if I'm writing a hook, then I would say most people suck at hook writing, me included. 3 years ago, I struggled to write online, but today I go viral every single day. So here I use the numbers. All of them are 8 to 10 words long. So if we look at this, I'm following this exact same structure. So most people suck at hook writing, me included. Here's a powerful tip that changed my content forever. So, very short hook, straight into the meat, and then I deliver onto the content. So here I'm gonna write an entire new post based on the script that I wrote for this, and you guys are gonna see me writing live. So I've got the brainstorming done. I've got the idea done. I've got the obviously keywords based on, the sequences. So there's steps. So we're going to use Authored Up to write this quickly. And right. So we've got 2 lists already and the topic. So then I can go and think about a hook. So the best piece of hook writing advice on LinkedIn. So that's about 10 words long, about 8. It doesn't, it doesn't tickle down. So it's great because of mobile. Then don't always, use curiosity to build authority in your content. Here's how. Use curiosity in your content. Here's how. Here's 5. Here's 5 steps. And then this is the framework. This is the framework I'm using. We're going 1 to 3, blah, blah, blah. So that's literally it. Obviously, then I go on and write a little bit more, but that's a literal example of how I would write a hook based on me just knowing the meat of the content. So a lot of people start with the hook in mind, and if you have a hook swipe file, that's really useful. Sometimes I don't always want to use a hook swipe file just in case, I want to do something like this. So what I would do is I would gather as much content as I can, so I have a good insight of what the meat is. By the meat I mean the body of the post, so it can be a little bit more targeted, more specific. And if I'm talking about curiosity or whatever, this may not actually make sense, but it doesn't matter. Then I can focus on how specific my hook can be. If I know there's 5 steps, and I can make sure that I can incorporate it into at least the first 2 lines of my content. I think obviously there's one hook here and then there's the rehook. So they're both important. That's how I will write a hook. Here, I'm communicating a big desire into a clear and concise way. No overcomplication, just real pure value. I brought in a problem, then agitated it in the rehug, which is the second line, and then I went on to deliver the solution. This is the PASS framework in great use: problem, agitate, solution. Then, as a bonus for you, is one powerful thing I've noticed across a lot of my clients was that their big hook idea was hidden near the end of their post, because usually people write in order and in sequence of events, leaving the best in the middle or last. But the best should always be at the start when it comes to hook writing. Let me give you an example. Now, I'm going to show you some examples of hooks that I've seen work over and over again, so you can have a look and maybe steal some of them. So first, a transformation hook. Last year, I had no copywriting experience. Today, I write for 6 and 7 figure founders. Now, that is a transformation. Again, it's a low stakes, high reward kind of situation where I go from low to high very quickly, and it then sort of frames the entire journey in as little words as possible. This type of hook is actually quite good, and it's super easy to use because everybody has some sort of like start point. Maybe it was yesterday, maybe it was last week, but it always works because it emphasizes that you're still a very normal person with very typical problems, but now you're in like a better situation because you did, etc. So then you go and deliver obviously the rest of the content. But I love this hook so much. I always use them because they're so easy to use. Now, contrasting hooks. Just post is the worst LinkedIn advice. So here I'm sort of like polarizing and contrasting on what is good and bad on LinkedIn. So that to me kind of like stood me out a little bit at that point in time, because just post is obviously very cliche advice. So I'm going against it and then recommending something else. How to post. So here we're going to take some inspiration from Twitter. If you guys don't know me, I literally live on Twitter. Twemex and Tweet Hunter are literally my best friends. So I learned to write best by learning Twitter. So if you see too many Twitter examples, that's why. So if we see here the how-to examples: how to be insanely productive, how to make money with SEO, how to fall asleep in 2 minutes. These are all very specific outcomes. They're also very short, and they tell me a bigger story within the first line. So that's super interesting for me to understand. Then we have story starters. So I have a friend who is 40 and damn near a billionaire. Then we have Dakota here saying, my parents struggle with crack addiction. Then we have 3 years ago, I escaped the rat race. These are all stories. They tell me everything but nothing at the same time, which is exactly what a good hook does. They all use very specific keywords if you look at this, and they all trigger either curiosity or have a bold opinion or have credibility. So this one from Cody has credibility because she's using friend, billionaire. Mine is curiosity because 3 years ago I escaped the rat race. Then similar to this one, this will kind of like resolve. It has a lot of things. So it's like a bold statements all across. Then very curious as to what this all is about. And then here's how at the end, which makes it a very enticing hook and then a very good lead to the actual post. Now, timeframes are also one of my favorite things to use. I get roasted by my friends for using timeframes all the time, but they're good. I love them. So 3 years ago, I sucked at writing. 3 months ago, I spoke to Hollywood's Storytelling King. 3 years ago, I skipped the rat race. So I guess most writers online have a thing for threes. And then yesterday, my little one-person business crossed a 4 million revenue. So the reason why these timeframes work is because you're showing people again where you are right now and where you came from quite quickly without going into long tangents like I explained in the storytelling lesson, where you don't always need to start at the very start. You start in the middle of things. So when you're starting in the middle of things, like in this ones, you know the story is not over yet, so you can't start at the end. You're starting in the middle of the action, which is your current life, but you're kind of like reflecting on the back of it. So, 3 years ago, I was doing this, now I'm doing this, and now I'm working on this. So Justin Welsh, for example, in this post, he then can go on and like, this is what we did, this is what happened before, and this is where I'm going after, which is super interesting. It gives your audience a chance to connect with you, and also, get sucked into it immediately, because all of these are using curiosity, right? And they're solving a problem as well. So maybe someone wants to fix their writing. Maybe someone wants to, escape the 9 to 5. Maybe someone wants to make 4 million. I mean, who doesn't? So they are all curiosity driven and problem solving at the same time. Now, here's the golden question to ask yourself when you're writing a hook. My golden rule for hook writing is it specific enough? Now, let's look at these frameworks. First, we have specificity, and we're going to go from 0. So we can go from very basic to hyper specific quite quickly. We just tweak it a little bit. So we can start from something as simple as helpful copywriting lessons. Okay. Firstly, my question is helpful to who? How long is it going to take me to learn this? And what is the actual outcome? Then if we go a little bit deeper and add just a number, so we go 6 lessons for copywriting. Okay. That is a little bit more tangible. I'm slightly more interested, but it still isn't enough for me to be 100% interested on this. So then I can go in and add a personal touch, which is one of my favorite things. There's like an entire module in this, the How I module. And it's 6 lessons for copywriting that helped me. Now, there's a little bit more authority. There's a number, and I know it's a lesson, right? Because this one was just like, how many lessons? I don't know how long what is the time investment for this? But here, it's 6 lessons. Now, if we want to go pro, then 6 copywriting lessons that made me 6 figures. Ideally, and this is like an amazing tip. I don't know if psychological or not, but because of, if we think about 6-figure salary, like $100,000 versus just 6 lessons to make $100,000, then the trade-off of someone reading 6 lessons that could potentially make them 6 figures is nothing in comparison to them not knowing what they're gonna be reading for the next, 20 minutes, if anything. So here, if people see 6 pages that attributed to 6 figures, they are more likely to 1, like the content, 2, save it for later, 3, engage with it, 4, want more. Because people like snackable content. As I said, people don't have short attention spans, they have short, boring content spans. So the more attractive you can make your content, and the more specific you can make it, the higher the returns will be, whether it comes to needs, engagement, or virality. Now, we can also use the curiosity and transformation mix. So if we start from like a life-changing moment, then we can go into something more specific, like my life changed, because a life-changing moment could be a movie, it could be a poem, it could be something else, it could be from Elon Musk. Then my life changed. Okay, that's way more specific. It's from my personal brand. Then we then can go into a little bit more detail. My life changed a few years ago. Okay, how? I'm a little bit more, my interest is piqued, right? Lastly, if I go even more specific, a random Tuesday afternoon changed my life. Anyone reading that type of hook will be like, well, if you remember the exact date and then the time, then it must have been something incredible for you to actually go ahead and tell us. I've used this hook like twice now, and it always works because it's so specific that it builds that trust that perhaps this hook wouldn't have done for someone else. In a sea full of content claiming to know the solution but never actually delivering, make sure you add specific to not only gain trust but also gain credibility. And hooks are the best way to gain credibility from the very beginning and then help you reach the right people and more of them simultaneously. But then there's one secret left you need to learn here, and that is simplicity. Don't leave people guessing. Don't try to build fake curiosity, and don't save the best for last. Give it all up front. It will pay off massively, I promise. And as a kind reminder from me to you, do not overpromise on your hook. Always deliver exactly what you're saying you're gonna say. I'll see you in the next video.